Thank you very much for joining us. Maybe you can just take us through the details of this particular letter.
Well, Betty, before we get to the details of the letter, this decision by the President not to appoint a tribunal, of course, coming just hours before the expiry of the 14 days set by the law within which he should appoint a tribunal after receiving a petition. Remember, the Judicial Service Commission, a special committee of the Judicial Service Commission, investigated the bribery allegations against Justice Philip Tunoi within 7 days. It heard from several people. It interrogated Justice Tunoi, Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero, as well as Geoffrey Kiplagat, who saw the affidavit that implicated Tunoi in the bribery allegations. And after those investigations, then it made the recommendation that the President should form a tribunal. And its petition, it was transmitted to the President on the 9th of February, so the 14 days would be expiring tomorrow. And critics as well as analysts have been counting down, arguing that, the President previously has not taken such a long time. He has not waited until the last minute to appoint a tribunal. For instance, in the case, the tribunal to investigate the dissolution of the Makueni County, as well as the tribunal to investigate EACC, former EACC Chair Mumo Matemu and Vice Chair Irene Keino. So perhaps they were counting down to tomorrow at the expiry of that deadline, 14-day deadline, of course, which would have legal as well as political implications for the President. Now, coming to that letter, this is the letter, as you mentioned there, by the head of Public Service and Chief of Staff, Joseph Kenywa, to the Chief Justice and Chair of the Judicial Service Commission, Dr. Willie Mutunga. And the letter does not talk about the back and forth. There has been the back and forth between the Judicial Service Commission and State House saying that in the transmittal of documents for the petition, the Judicial Service Commission did not include some crucial documents. The JSC, on the other hand, saying it transmitted all the documents, including the transmittal letter, the petition, as well as the investigation report into the bribery allegations against Justice Philip Tunoi. But this letter does not talk about the missing documents. It stipulates that, yes, the Judicial Service Commission under the law should present the petition to the President, and the President should, within 14 days after receiving the petition, then appoint a tribunal. It talks about the members that the tribunal should constitute, including a chairperson and 3 other members from persons who hold or have held offices as a judge, 1 advocate, and so on. But it goes on now to give the reason why the President will not be appointing a tribunal. After all, remember, Justice Philip Tunoi, he has been challenging his retirement age. He lost that case at the High Court. The High Court ruled that judges should retire at the age of 70. He moved to the Court of Appeal on grounds that he was appointed as judge under the old constitution, which sets the retirement age at 74, and not under the new constitution, which set the retirement age at 70. So that is the appeal that the State House is quoting. And this letter says in one paragraph that at this particular moment in time, when the appeal is still pending and where the status of the judge is subject to judicial consideration, implementing the recommendation of the Judicial Service Commission in line with Article 168, subsection 5, would create a constitutional crisis. The letter goes on to say that we therefore propose that we await the outcome of the judicial process, after which we shall process the petition as required by the Constitution and the law. So those are the reasons by State House for the President not to appoint that tribunal just hours, I might say, to the expiry of the 14 days within which he should, or the law states that he should appoint a tribunal. Of course, perhaps the President waiting until the last minute to insulate himself against what would have been legal or political ramifications. If he failed to appoint a tribunal within the 14 days, he would even face an impeachment motion on several grounds, including gross violation of the Constitution. So perhaps for State House, just waiting to see what the ruling by the Court of Appeal, the hearing on Justice Tunoi's retirement age is ongoing, and State House here says that they will have to await the outcome of that ruling before proceeding with the recommendation by the Judicial Service Commission. Betty.